Hey you, and welcome to the Blood Ravens, who are about to go head-to-head with a gigantic Orky warhorde. However, the Blood Ravens are supported by a rare and dangerous sight, the Legion of the Damned. And with just over 1,000 Marines, they're gonna have to take on just under 1 million Orcs. And very quickly, before we do start the video, firstly, thank you very much for clicking on the video in the first place, and if you do enjoy this content, why not subscribe? You're already coming back here to watch it anyway. And if you're feeling especially zesty, why not click the join button for our memberships down below? All your support goes to helping make more videos like this one. But with all that being said, let the violence commence! Alright then folks, here we are, Blood Ravens on the field and the Legion of the Damned Terminators as well. This is going to be really interesting. Already that bolt of fire opening up on the ridge from where the Orc horde comes charging down. Now they've got choppers, they've got mega nobs, they've got storm boys, and they've even got a few shooters and nobs thrown into the mix here. You can already see that bolt of fire just cutting down Orc left, right and centre. No mercy shall be spared here for the Green Tide horde, and straight away assault marines getting right in to that combat mix, supported by dreadnoughts on the front line as well, the melee variants going to be using them gigantic pneumatic claws here to just rip and tear and asunder the Orcs, should they be so stupid enough to take on a dreadnought. Now the Orcs of course have numbers on their side, which they're going to be trying to use to their advantage to outflank the Space Marines, but of course the Space Marines are no chubs here. They're not going to let that happen, at least not easily. And already more assault forces are moving into the flanks to block these Orky hordes from moving around. And again, that bolt of fire, just look at that, laid down right into the Greenskin horde. Now over on the other side, this is where the real problem is going to be for the Space Marines. Already you can see that the line is thinly stretched out, only having 1,000 Marines here. Now, I understand in law terms 1,000 Marines is an entire chapter's worth. It's an insane amount of Marines. However, this game isn't the best at representing Space Marines. Let's face it, they've got one animation, they can't even use the jump packs, and yeah, there's just infinite amounts of ammo. So yeah, ultimately we've had to use 1,000 Marines just to sort of balance out the fight a little bit. And I love looking at the Orky horde. There's something so satisfying about seeing millions of greenskins just barreling across the open plains here. And these guys are really taking some hammering fire from that bolt already. The corpses are starting to pile up on the floor as they try to take on the Space Marine forces here. Assault Marines being absolute stalwart stallions here, holding that front line, not letting the horde through, because should they lose their firepower, there's a good chance that the Space Marines may lose this fight, because the Orcs, again, have them overwhelming numbers. The Space Marines here relying on sheer combat prowess as well as aggression, and of course that Cerament armor going to be providing a lot of protection for them. Orcs though slowly outflanking, using their greater numbers here to work their way past the Space Marine defenders right into them bolt guns of the Blood Ravens, who are going to really try to focus down at these flanking maneuvers now, because look at that already. Goo is starting to appear all over the floor. The Orcs taking heavy losses. Already 100,000 Orcs have been taken out here. You can see the mosaic of death that is left here right behind the advancing Space Marine front line. And it looks like the Space Marines are actually really starting to push the Orcs back. The Orcs came charging down this hill here, only to be met by a steel and a chain blade here, and getting pushed back. If the Space Marines can push them all the way back up the hill, that'd be amazing. But the worry here is as the Space Marines push forward, they're going to leave their rear lines here exposed to the firepower. And of course, we've got the Legion of the Damned here in the center, coming out of the smoke mist like the swamp monster, quite frankly. It's always interesting actually seeing the Legion of the Damned in the lore, because it's basically like there's not really much known about them. It's always described as they just come out of nowhere, out of thick fog, obliterate the enemies of mankind, and then just disappear again. So I'd really like for Games Workshop to expand a lot more on the Legion of the Damned, because there's such a cool idea. God, look at these body piles here, appearing around the Space Marines. That one Raven there just going absolutely ham on the Orky mass. And that really is, that's actually like almost a one-story building there of corpses that are built up Now, the further and further that these Space Marines are starting to push out, the less and less firepower they're going to have to support them, because, yeah, the firepower's already getting bogged down, and I love this. Even though the Orks have basically already broken through the flank, yeah, it's not really helped them much. They're just taking extreme losses here. You can see the Orks are moving Storm Boys up right into this breach to try and break their way through. And that's exactly what the Storm Boys are for. Really good at finding the chinks in any armor and exploiting it. Unfortunately, once again, they can't use their jetpacks here. I'd absolutely love for the units to be able to use special abilities and stuff like that. But sadly, you know, when you've got millions of units on the screen, you have to sacrifice some things. And yeah, utility is probably going to be one of them. But again, look at this, just this stalwart, absolute concrete line of Giga Chads here, pushing forward. They're not even, these guys don't even have any fire support. They're just chopping their way through mega knobs, through knobs, and look at this. Oh my God. The Space Marines, though, they've already lost 66 troops here. Not that it matters at all. I mean, where are the, I was going to say, where are the Dreadnoughts? Here they are. The Dreadnoughts are on the front line. They're just extremely hard to see in amongst the massive red. One other thing about that, yeah, with the Space Marines being red and the colour of goo being red as well, it's going to make it hard sometimes to see what the heck is going on. But look at this absolute mass here. They really are pushing their way back up the hill. The Orks came storming down it at full pelt, and now, slowly but surely, inch by inch, death by death, they are getting shoved back up that hill. Now, I'm starting to get really worried, actually. For the Space Marine lineup back here, the bolters are getting a little bit overwhelmed, and we are starting to see more and more losses appearing for the Space Marines here. Now, I am wondering how many of them are on the front line and how many of them are actually going to be this bolt support. Now, one interesting thing that I've noticed here is that the Blood Ravens with the bolters, they sort of stand the ground, whereas the Legion of the Damned are able to maneuver a little bit more than the standard Blood Ravens here. That might be critical by the end of the round. God, look, we've already got Orky Daka building up in the background. You can see all these puffs of smoke here. That's the Orky Daka trying to lay down some covering fire for the rest of the Horde. And the rest of the Horde is just bogged down in horrific melee combat. Not horrific if you're an Orc, of course. That's exactly what you're looking for. More reinforcements trying to come up to the side here. But again, Space Marines blocking it off. Doing a really good job of it. And they really are just going to push all the way up to the top of the hill, I think, here. Slowly but surely, grinding their way through the Orky mass here. And trying to find any little weakness that they can to exploit. Because again, them numbers games really against the Space Marines. But they've got 370,000 kills under their belt, and they've still got 1,100 troops remaining. So yeah, things are going pretty well here for our Space Marine friends. They're not complaining, they're enjoying the battle, and you know what, so am I. I want to see more corpses start to get built up, though, like we did on this side. Let's actually go back over to these guys. Yeah, look at this. They're still going. As if they're still going over here. That's fantastic. Again, Bolt of Fire is actually playing a major role here. Looks like, oh, look at this. The Blood Ravens actually managed to clear out the Orky flanking maneuver, or at least thinned it out massively, to the point now where only a trickle of troops are coming in, which means that once again, that focus fire is being laid into this group here as they try to mount over the their own dead allies here, the Orcs. So almost like the Doom front cover from, I don't know if any of you guys remember it, Doom 95, where you've got Doom guys standing on top of a mountain of corpses blasting imps in the face. Look at this, Legion of the Damned pushing up right behind them, and these guys are almost breaking the crest of the hill now, which is kind of ridiculous, but then again, I suppose there is also a lot of Assault Marines in this. This side of the battlefield over here looking a little bit worse for wear, with the Orcs still pushing solidly into this flank, so hopefully now with the weakening of that side, some of this firepower could be redirected over here, and this is where we can start to break them. We've got a ring of fire power, not quoting Johnny Cash there, but you know, yeah, we've got this ring of firepower now from the Orcs, which is just lain into the side of the Space Marines over this side, and it actually looks like this line is starting to falter bit by bit. The Space Marines are being ground down here, but of course the Mega Knobs are a real threat to the Space Marines here. Them pneumatic claws able to rip off the limbs of Space Marines, though that's not going to stop them from fighting. I've seen a Space Marine with no arms kick an orc in the face before, so, you know, they're just going to carry on. It's not like he's going to bleed out. The combat stimuli here injected into them, as well as the, their automatic repair systems, because of the genetic modifications to the human inside the armor, allow them to go beyond the normal pain threshold here of any Imperial Guardsman that we've ever seen. It is actually insane how much damage a Space Marine can take, even deflecting bullets sometimes with their skin. That's something that's crazy. I think that was in like the... Was it in the Dawn of War 2 intro or Dawn of War 1 it might have been? There's an image of like a lieutenant or a captain who kneels down on the floor, and you can see orky bullets bouncing off his armor, and then one of them hits him in the cheekbone, and all it does is just scratch his face. It's like, oh my god, can you get any more of a Giga Chad move than that? Just being shot in the face and the bullet bounces off your cheekbone. I mean, that's the kind of thing that Superman would do. Look at that, they're all getting thrown through the air then, temporarily. Now, what's going on here? Oh, they're all trying to pile on one Space Marine there. But that bolt of fire is keeping him alive, and that's some heavy and concentrated firepower. Now, the bolter rounds here used by the Blood Ravens are these special airburst ones, meaning just before they contact the enemy, they actually explode and just shower them in a horrific amount of shrapnel. That's really good against these mob-sized hordes here that the Space Marines are trying to deal with. But it looks like ultimately the Mega Nobs on this side, as well as the Dagger, has brought the Space Marines to their knees. And now this flank is wide open. And I do think that we're going to start losing some of the Blood Ravens down here, because that is a lot of orcs that are currently heading towards their position. And unfortunately for them, I don't think bolter fire alone is going to be enough. We've lost 472 Marines at the moment. However, we're over halfway through the Orky army, which is really, really impressive now. Space Marines are holding on for dear life. You can see, oh, we're getting these little breakthroughs now. The line thinned out, and once again, the orcs have smashed their way through. Let's hope that the Legion of the Damned can provide enough covering fire here to help out the front line, which is cresting the hill and is now pushing over it. You guys, you just don't want any fire support whatsoever over here, do you? You're more than happy to just chew your way through orc after orc. I've got to imagine that the chainsaws over here, now look at that. I've got to imagine that the chainsaws over here are really starting to get clogged up with meat. You're going to have to give it a couple of cleaning revs. Now, look at this guy. Just going to town. Them big pneumatic claws just thumping into the floor, killing lots of orcs with the shockwave. Oh my god. Again, I said it earlier in the video, watching orcs swarm like this is one heck of a sight. And they are just pouring units into the breach now. Look at the body piles that we've made over here. Oh my god, the Space Marines are actually standing on it. They're using it as a firing parapet. That's kind of insane. A good amount of forces have actually pushed up onto this flank though to try and help this out. Try and hold back that Orky advance. 345,000 orcs remain on the field though. So this is definitely not over by a long shot here for the Space Marines. We've still got 700 units on the field. Again, that number disparity is absolutely crazy to me. The fact that they were facing off against 1 million orcs and already they've done this well, killing 570,000 orcs up until this point. Yeah, we're starting to get these little pockets of resistance that are appearing as well, as you can see. The orcs are trying to take out, oh god, the Legion of the Damned here has been singled out. He's being chopped down by Orky choppers at the moment, as well as Storm Boys. And these guys now have officially pushed over the lip of the hill. Is anything going to be able to stop them? I think maybe getting attacked in the rear might help. That Orky Dagger as well, all building up. It's congregating. And honestly, it's a lot. It's a lot of firepower that the orcs bring to the field. That Dagger is not to be underestimated. Chipping away at the Space Marine armor, bit by bit, bullet by bullet. Look at all the corpses over the floor. Predominantly orcs, thankfully, if you're a Space Marine fan. If not, unlucky, but you should know by now that, of course, the orcs will be able to grow back most of their army in a mushroom cycle. That's such a weird thing to say. Orcs and mushrooms. It's just because they're all fun guys. No, I hate myself for that joke. I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. Look at this. We've got a bit of rear guard action going on now. Some of the Space Marines realizing, hang on, these orcs behind us now. So they've come back here with the help of a dreadnought to start taking some of these boys out. In fact, 2 dreadnoughts are on this line. 3 dreadnoughts are on this line. Oh my god, that's quite a lot. And again, these guys on the front line over here, Space Marines, unrelenting in their advance, not caring about fire support, pushing right through the Orc Horde. And that's a lot of Storm Boys, actually, that the Orcs have brought up to the frontier to try and deal with this. But it isn't helping too much. Oh, look at this. We have got some fire support coming out. A couple of Legion of the Damned here, making the way to the top of the hill. Probably a good thing, actually, because now they can rain fire support down into the Orky mass in the valley below. And again, we've got these weird little pockets of sporadic resistance over here, where single Space Marines are surrounded by hundreds of Orcs, but they're still not dying. Look at this. We've got some sort of staggered retreat here. It's not really a retreat, they're just covering fire so they can do the Emperor's duty that little bit longer. And it is working wonders for them at the moment. We are extracting a high price from the Orcs here for this victory that looks like it's almost assured. But having said that, they still haven't dealt with the massive blob of Assault Marines that have pushed over the hill now. And honestly, if all these corpses here before weren't going to stop them, I can't see how the rest of them are going to do it now. With only 250,000 troops left on the field, the Orcs have really got their work cut out for them. I actually wouldn't be able to call this either way at the moment because the Space Marines are starting to run out of reinforcements too. 465 of them now remain on the field. Then we've got this magnificent little goo lake. Look at that. Oh, it's a little bit deep. It's getting some depth to it here, but not much here. Again, covering fire, coming out of the rear lines. Staggered movement backwards here. They're not retreating, they're simply advancing in a different direction. That's how we like to see it. Let's go back over to the other side of the hill because I'm genuinely interested what's going to happen. Are the Orcs going to break through the flanks over this side? I don't know. That's a tough one to call. But it's certainly looking a little bit painful here for our poor old Marines. The guys, they're doing such a good job. And look how much advancement they've actually made since we last checked in with them a few moments ago. It's kind of crazy how quick and efficient they are at obliterating the enemies. Oh my god. Someone needs to take out this Orky Daka, though. It has been a thorn in the side of the Space Marines this entire round so far. Again, look at these Terminators. The Legion of the Damned holding off individual groups, slowing down the Orky advance, allowing firepower to extract that vengeance from the enemy. And it is working really well for the Space Marines so far. But of course, numbers. It's the numbers, Mason. They're slowly but surely starting to catch up with the Space Marines. How are we doing on this side, chaps? Looks like the Orcs managed to take out them dreadnoughts, unfortunately, here for the Space Marines. Again, though, these small pockets of resistance holding back most of the Orky waves. It's not allowing them to capitalize on their little victories that they're gaining. Really sporadic fighting over this side, back to back, as the Assault Marines try to hold off this flank. Unfortunately for them, the Orcs have managed to break through, and now these guys on this side are slowly but surely starting to get encircled. We might even have, look at this, a chink in the armor here. The Orcs have found a way to exploit it, and they are rushing boys in, making sure that the Space Marines cannot plug that gap before they get their vengeance here. It's absolutely a brutal fight on the front lines. 188,000 Orcs remaining to 300 Space Marines. And what, there's probably about 50 bolters down here, maybe 20 Legion of the Damned. The rest of them are all up here. And this line is slowly but surely starting to collapse. This is turning disastrous here for the Space Marines, very slowly. But will they be able to take out the rest of the Orcs before the inevitable almost happens here? It's going to be very, very difficult for the Space Marines to live up to this order. But they are getting their way through. What we need, like I said, what we need is we really need to take out this Daka. Just laying in to the Space Marines. Free hits, that's all it is. Absolutely free hits. Again, we've got a really, really strung out Orc army over this side. Very good news for the defenders. Not so good news for the Orcs here. That firepower is being leveled at them. They're taking stupendous losses. I mean, if you just look at the kill counter, it's going up, what, every I'd say maybe 200 to 400 every second are killed, which is just insane, really. Considering there's 200 odd enemies left on the field, that's pretty much almost every single round is killing someone there. But I am starting to worry about this front line. You can see the Orky Daka is zigzagging through the air here. Again, we've got a Dreadnought on the front line or two, which are really going to help it out in the melee. Sadly, they can't use the flamethrowers here. I'd love that. But in this game, there's no flamethrower type of ammunition, so not really something we can do, because I'd love to get flamethrowers in this game. There's a lot I'd love to get in this game, but, you know, we'll get there one day, or we'll get Ultimate Epic Battle Simulator 3, and hopefully that'll add on all the stuff that we've been missing from this one. One thing that's really been missing from this game as well is the zombie infection. In the older game, when a zombie killed someone, it'd spawn a brand new zombie, and that was really cool. Unfortunately, that didn't carry over into this game, so I'd really like to see that with like some Poxwalkers or something like that, if we can get them on the field, throw them against some Imperial Guardsmen and see what's what. But, you know, maybe one day. At the moment, though, we're going to have to settle for the Legion of the Damned, doing this amazing retreat, because I don't think there's actually any Blood Ravens left at this point, question mark? No, it doesn't seem like it. It doesn't seem like there's any Blood Raven fire support left. It's all coming down to the Legion of the Damned now. Basically, picking off the Orcs one by one here with the firepower. Sacrificing one Legion of the Damned for every couple of hundred kills of the Orcs. And at that rate, that's one hell of an attrition rate. But yeah, ultimately things are starting to slow down here now for the Space Marines. This is really worrying. Back-to-back fighting. The Assault Marines, having pushed too far forward, no longer have the fire support. Of course, the red mist descending here over the Space Marines as they've pushed on. And I can't blame them, really. These Assault Marines have killed thousands upon thousands of Orcs in this one fight alone. To be able to push up that hill, over the hill and down to the other side, I mean, they're practically at the where the rear end of the Orcs started here, which is absolutely insane. But I'm starting to think, ladies and gents, unfortunately for them, this is turning out to be a one-sided fight. And even with all the losses that the Orcs have taken here, they're just going to be able to grow more. That's the sad thing. We've got no cleanup crew that's coming in at the moment to be able to deal with the Orky mushroom fungi that's now scattered all across the floor. So in a week's time, there's going to be 4 times the amount of Orcs here. Just under 4 million, which, yeah, the Space Marines have lost almost an entire chapter trying to take out. As I said, unfortunately in this game, the Space Marines are not that well represented, but it is a game designed for medieval combat, and the Space Marines are just a mod. So, you know, it's sort of forgivable, right? We can forgive them for that. In reality, a chapter size like this, supported by the Legion of the Damned, would have absolutely annihilated this Orc army. There'd be nothing left. In fact, they wouldn't even deployed Marines. They would have just done some sort of exterminatus on them, come in and mopped up whatever was left. That's the smart way to do it, but of course that'd leave us with a very, very different fight here. A very boring fight, actually. So, you know, we've had to do it the hard way here, just for entertainment's sake. And my god, entertaining have the Blood Ravens been. Though the Legion of the Damned here, absolute showstoppers with their covering fire tactic. And again, they haven't really retreated, they're just sort of backing up, staying in the area, and just laying into the Orcs, trying to extract as much vengeance as they possibly can with every single kill here. Let's go back to our front line over here. I want to see if our Assault Marines are still standing. No, unfortunately not. It all comes down to these chaps over here then, ladies and gents. This is the last of the army. We've got 77 of them left on the field. Let's just hit a little time-lapse camera and get our final verdict. We'll be back in a second. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are, down to the last 28 Marines here, and they are, of course, all the Legion of the Damned, one by one, vanishing into the smoke from whence they came, and the Orky Horde pretty much has its victory here. Oh, look at that, there's only 110,000 of them left on the field, so, yeah, unfortunately, we're going to have to call this one an Orky victory, a rare Orky win here on the ChaoticPinky channel, but of course, ladies and gentlemen, High Command was never, ever gonna let this stand. The Orcs were never gonna ever win this. And so, in the last dying seconds of the fight, an Exterminatus is called. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I do hope you had a blast. I know I did. Please do comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until the next time, peace.